Alright, welcome to video 2 on this channel. Before we get started, I'm not a financial advisor. Do your own research before throwing your money into trades because you don't want to lose all your money. Now, S&P 500, the SPX, it's an S&P 500 index. Last time I covered that we were in this wedge, well, surprise, we're still in this major wedge that has been forming since October, but it's getting tighter and tighter and tighter. And we're now having candles that are almost the size of the whole wedge up and down. So this has been pretty crazy because you don't often see something like this. We talked about that if we happen to break up out of this pattern, which is the more unlikely case right now, that we could target this channel pattern here, which would be at around 5350 to 5400 at this point. That would be our next target on the upside. However, if we break down, that we could target maybe a 10% move down. Okay, quickly time for the gold chart. There's about 10 charts I'm trying to get into in this video, so I'm going to do them all really quick. You can see that we had a breakdown here of this trend line here, and this happened in February, but we had a signal on the weekly stochastic RSI indicator that momentum, bullish momentum was coming in, and what happened? Bullish momentum came in big time. Now, it does look like we are going up a little fast. We are a little overextended. So I would imagine that at some point on gold, this doesn't have to happen, but it would be a very healthy thing for gold to do. For it to come back down here and retest this epic support at around 2070. As this was our former triple top that we just blasted through and made all-time highs. Now, weekly chart on gold real quick. The weekly chart makes a couple things visible. One, our next target. As you can see, gold has been trading in this channel here. Our next target would be at the top of the channel here, probably around 2250. Somewhere around there would be the next target on gold. Now, the big picture on gold is that you have this head and shoulders pattern that formed, and we broke out of the neckline, meaning this pattern is active. And if you take a measured move of this pattern, of this head and shoulders pattern, you can get a target that would be at around $2,500, just over $2,500. Okay, NVIDIA, it's at critical resistance here. I'll show you that on the weekly chart when we zoom out. However, where could we drop here? If this is in fact the top, I'm thinking that this line could act as support. We got a gap fill right here that we'd like to fill in. This drop here would be pretty significant. From where we are right now, it's about a 24% drop. And from the highs we made on Friday, that would be at around a 32% drop in this area. But why did I pick this area? Because of the gap fill, because we pivoted hard off this when we had earnings come in. And plus, if you take a fib retracement, that's right in the golden pocket. So we have three factors lining up for that to be a good pullback. And this level is at 660. Weekly chart on NVIDIA here, you can see we have this trend line that's running through these highs here, and we were unable to close above it this week. We wicked above it. We wicked above it hard. But in fact, we sold off once we got above there, and we made a tremendous topping tail. So this pattern is going to signal that we are going to have some bearish momentum come in. This is the very start of some bearishness in NVIDIA potentially. And that's going to occur until we can close above 976 on a weekly candle. So this is pretty significant. Okay, Tesla. This is one I talked about last week. You can see the rising wedge I was talking about. I said that we were having bullish momentum come in, so we could negate this wedge possibly and head up to 250 and then potentially 300 as a much later target. However, we did not negate the bearish pattern that was forming here, this rising wedge. We actually broke to the downside. And where have we found preliminary support? At the bottom of this channel. And we've actually had bullish momentum come out of Tesla as of now. It'll be interesting to see next week what happens, because right now we haven't had any sort of indication that we're going to get an impulsive move off the bottom of this pattern here. In fact, we are seeing some bearishness come in. If we break to the downside of this pattern, it's in all likelihood that we at least head to 150 and potentially lower to 140. 140 is a good level as it has a lot of pivot touches here as resistance, and we haven't came down to verify it as support. So this would be a good level for me to watch at 140. Plus we have this gap fill over here, which has not been filled in yet. Okay, the last thing I want to say on Tesla is that although we are showing bearishness right here, we're technically at support. Even though there is bearish signals, we're at support, so don't jump the gun jumping into a short, because there is a possibility that we just go up and test this trend line here, which is at 250, and you would get wrecked if you hopped in a short. So there is very little indication that we'll do that right now, but it's always a possibility, especially since we haven't gotten confirmation that we're breaking the support we are at in this pattern here. Okay, Valero Energy was the next chart I wanted to talk about. We have bullish momentum at the moment in this stock, and we've broken up out of this triple top formation here. We're on the weekly chart, by the way. We've closed above this level. Watch this week to see if we can firm above this level. Now, if we do, what could we expect as a target? Well, let's draw a channel here, connecting these lows through here, pull it up, and you can see we still have these two pivots here, and almost this one touches too, and that would give us a target of around just under 160 on Valero. Okay, MFC right now on the TSX. Now, this one is really interesting because we had this nice little run up in this channel, and we've confirmed below this channel. However, the last time we did that, we were over here and we still rode the channel up before blasting in on earnings. But earnings aren't coming up again. It actually looks like there isn't much coming up in terms of this stock for a while. So we could potentially see a sell-off now, and it would be a good time for it. And it would be honestly very healthy for MFC to do so. Now, we have this gap fill here, which would mean that the first target here would be at around $31, but that's not much of a pullback. In the longer term, as we have bearish momentum on the weekly stochastic RSI, once again, I know it confuses a lot of people, but a more healthy pullback would be to this structure support here at 2750, as this has been a major level of resistance on MFC, and we haven't yet gone down to verify it as epic support. But if we do, wink, 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 it would be a tremendous opportunity to see a bounce, considering it's also in the golden pocket. Okay, NVEI here, trading on the TSX. We had this bull flag pattern here forming, but we just slammed into support. And whenever you slam into support, it's like slamming into a wall. It should support you. You shouldn't go through the wall, but with enough force, you can always break the wall. And the more times you hit the wall, it gets weaker and weaker and weaker. So that's what's happening here. We just slammed into it with a lot of force. Let's see what arises from it here. But there are two good supports down here, plus a larger pattern that I'll show you in a second on the weekly chart. So the first pattern correction here would be at around $26. This $26 level is quite significant in the fact that it's been good support, or at least good resistance before, and then a little bit of support here. And then this next level would be at around $22, which same thing, was once support, resistance. Let's see if it's support again. There's also this gap fill in between here, so maybe we do spike into it here. Take a fib from the lows to the highs here, and you can see that first level coincides with the golden pocket, and that second level coincides with the 7-8 retracement. So these two levels have a lot of confluence with them. Now, quickly, the weekly chart for NVEI. The weekly chart in NVEI has shown that we've been in this beautiful falling wedge, and that we've broken to the upside out of it, but haven't had the parabolic move that comes with breaking out of these very bullish reversal patterns. So after a correction, if we do correct, and we have bullish momentum come back in to NVEI, it might be an incredible opportunity to see a big move in this stock. EQB on the TSX once again has been holding on for dear life. We had this move up to the top of this parallel here, and then we broke through this trend line here. It's possible we go back up to retest it, fill in this gap here, and head to around $94. However, with bearish weekly momentum, and we're just hanging onto support here, you could actually make the case that we've broken down from this support and that we're failing to get back above. It does increase the likelihood that you could see a move down to the bottom of this parallel, which would be around $76. Okay, Go Easy is an interesting chart here on the TSX once again. We have bearish momentum right now as per the weekly stochastic RSI, and we're at the bottom of a triangle on the RSI itself. Now you can see that we've broken out of this pattern here, and we haven't come down to test the support the channel has provided us. So if we were to come down to here onto this support of the channel, take a fib tool, you can see something special. I love when these line up. You can see that from the lows of this move to the highs, that the golden pocket is right at the top of the channel if we were to come down and test it. So yeah, on Go Easy, if we do see a move down and a significant one from 160 to 130, this to me would be a very intriguing level to buy. Wink, wink, wink. And finally, the last chart in this video will be Ethereum USD. And you can see that we've ridden this trend line up in this recent bull rally, but now we're coming into some pretty epic resistance that you can see better on the weekly chart. The weekly chart shows that there's some pivot highs at this level, and we're running right into it, and we've already sold off a little bit. Also at this level, if you take the highs to the low of the bear market, that you can see we're running into the 7-8, just over 4,000 as well. So if we do run up over this level, it's more than likely we're making all-time highs. But if we don't, and we actually sell off from here, and we actually have bearish momentum come into Ethereum, then you can see a pullback and expect to test the top of this channel that was once great resistance at a couple different points, to see if we can verify it as valid support. And if we do that, we can expect that it'll be around $3,000, maybe $2,900, but somewhere in that range. All right, just a few closing remarks. Thanks for watching. And you actually missed out on the best major trade alert. If you're not part of the Patreon, you can join it. It's Charts with Cart. That's where you will see the best of the best charts.